faster method, all in the same thing. Which one am I going to choose?
Cooler method.
Safe, fast, cool, quick, very precise. What's it called?
I was gonna cover the cylinder balance test where you just, if it's misfiring and you unplug the injector and see if it makes a difference.
This is in, sorry, I know this isn't showing up there. This is in your textbook, right? So it can be used for two tests. One test was for looking at the coil resistance. The other test is for what?
Equal pressure drop.
Pressure drop. Injector pressure drop. So I swear that's what Alan just said. Didn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
I thought so. Okay. Antonio, do we have any other possible tests that we can do?
Void test.
Noid light. Oh, I love it. Okay, Noid. Chris. We're running out, man. We're running out of things here, but I still got something in my mind.
I'm out of ideas. They took all of them.
They didn't take all of them. There is still one test we can do. And that's
Did someone say injector on time for pulse width?
Well, so great. Good thinking. We're going to look at that when we look at the signature test.
Okay.
But we could also do that with our DVOM and not a meter, right? Remember my DVOM had that function where I could actually look at on time in milliseconds. So I who said that?
Tom.
Tom. Okay, Tom, you're doing that one. So we're going to check the injector on time with a DVOM. Excellent.
Can we use a pressure gauge?
And do what?
Just check the injectors? The flow of it, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, we will do that. We're going to do that with my special tool here. Yeah, and we will be using a gauge for that. Absolutely. How about, guys, I know you guys are running out of ideas, but there is one more. And guys, it is probably the most important.
Oh,
Like a balance test.
Okay, balance test we're going to perform.
about-
That was, I think, who called that? Someone called it an injector pressure drop test. Alan picked that one, didn't he? I swear he did.
But the one where you unplug the injector and see if it makes a difference in how it's running. You can determine if
So
that's the problem.
that's a good test. So could I do that with either an injector or a coil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was a COP, yeah. So we'd be looking at a cylinder balance test essentially just to see if all the cylinders are contributing or which one isn't contributing. That's an excellent idea.
Use a scan tool or just unplug it too.
Scan tool or just unplug it. Sure. So yeah, absolutely. I like that. We're missing one that I can think of, guys. And as I say, it is where I start when I've got a problem. Visual. How about we change your word from visual to sensory?
Smell?
Okay.
No.
I'm using my smell. I mean, God, if I walk up and this car's got a rough running condition, I walk up to the front of the car and I smell gasoline, I've got a direction to go already, right? If I get in there and start looking around and I see broken wire, well, I've got somewhere to start. We also have our fingers and feel, right? Wiggling, tapping. Clear? Guys, without further ado, we're going to jump in here. I'm going to change my camera view for a moment and just give you a tour of what we're going to do here, what I've got set up. Actually, I've got to take away some of my tells here. Okay, you guys with me?
Yep.
I don't know why you're not showing up on my screen here. Bear with me a second. I got to see what you guys are seeing or I'm completely lost. Okay, so I've changed my fuel pressure gauge. I've gone to a conventional gauge. This is just tapped in to my fuel filter, and my fuel line is reconnected again. So I've reconnected everything back up, and we're just tapped in now. So this is the equivalent of my Schrader valve with an adapter that I had to put on top of the fuel filter. It's the easiest place to access this vehicle. Okay, so the fuel is no longer traveling through my pressure gauge. It has a drain line here, which is not connected to anything. So we're just tapped in to measure pressure.
I think we're lagging.
Screen freeze.
Oh, okay, thank you. Oh no.
Wow, super laggy.
Sorry guys, I don't know what's going on with that right now. Let me just do something here. Let me try something. Who's on TELUS?
Should have got Shaw.
Tell us for the cell phone.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm gonna try
TELUS
that.
line.
I'm on TELUS. I'm on their fiber network, and it's generally pretty good, but it's been pissing me off severely lately.
Yeah, same. I've had lots of issues with it as well, and the TV as well. It's like sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
We call and they don't care.
Is that with fiber optics?
Yep.
Really?
I've got super fast. I mean, the upload and download speed are just incredible. But right now I'm connected to my network. Let's just see what happens. It's not too bad right now. I'm just going to move slowly and talk really slowly so my high-speed network can keep up with me. As mentioned, guys, this gauge is simply tapped into my fuel source. It is not going through the gauge, so it's a simple gauge setup. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be important for us later. So I got my gauge set up here. I have, turn my screen around so I can see what you guys are seeing. I have the tools of the trade for us today. DVOM. Apologize for the shaking. I have our fuel system tester. I'm not going to get into it today, but we'll discuss it. I have that OTC fuel cleaner as well as the chemical. I have a temperature probe if we need it. A manual, everybody read the manual quickly. Stethoscope. I have all our Noid lights, and this kit here does probably every vehicle on the road except the one that's in your service bay that day. So anyways, all sorts of things. We're going to be using one of these today, and I think we want the Bosch 2. Bosch 2 is a really common terminal arrangement, so we'll probably be using that one a little later on. It also has something kind of cool where if we got an injector that's way down deep, we've got this little kind of device. I'll get into that later. The other things we have here are ways to access our harness if we want to do any measurements or connections quickly. And of course, our friendly low current probe. Fuel pressure gauge that we're using is on the vehicle. This is the master fuel pressure set, and it has quite a number of adapters that come with the kit. There's also a supplemental kit available that connects to the other 3% of the vehicles on the market. Okay, so there you go.
We lost you.
Did you lose me again?
For just a split second there.
Okay, sorry. Did you see? This is the auxiliary kit. It's an Asian kit that has lots more adapters in it. Okay, so lots of fittings, lots of adapters. It took me about 5 minutes to disconnect and reconnect the configuration on the car. I have Mr. Picoscope there ready to go. We got a little remote camera that's going to keep an eye on things as well. And guys, I think we're ready to go. I think we're ready to start testing. So someone said, what's the first test we're going to do? And that's a visual test. I might have a situation such as I have here. I'm going to fire this vehicle up and hopefully not eat any harnesses or wires, make sure my wires are well away. Has anybody done that? Run a car and then had their nice brand new scope get sucked into the fan? It really sucks. All right, so same routine as the other day, guys. Key on, I got a check engine light. I'm happy with that. How much fuel did we burn yesterday? Holy crap. We burned a little bit of fuel, but I think we're still okay. Still has the same
Looks
K on it.
similar.
Okay, car's up and running. And let's just see what we got here. I know you guys aren't seeing what I'm seeing right now, but what I have is a really rough running engine. This engine is shaking all over the place. So the first thing I do is I notice, I don't know if you guys can see this, but visual inspection, guys, look at that. My injector is off. Put it back in and hopefully restore the vehicle. Okay, back up and running again. The other thing I'd want to do is do a stethoscope test. I'm not going to do the stethoscope test, guys. I think we're all pretty familiar with it, but whoever mentioned it was... I need you, Jay Lee, I need you to tell me about a stethoscope test. What am I going to do with that test? How am I going to perform it? What am I looking for? What am I listening for?
You're listening for the pulses in the injector.
So I'm looking, yeah, so the pulses or the clicking. I'm specifically listening to the injector opening and closing. Click, 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 click. You'll hear a ticking sound. So what does that tell me?
That it's turning on and off.
That it's turning on and off. So do I know the injector's good?
Not necessarily.
Do I know if the injector's functioning? At least trying to function.
Yeah.
It is super quick, guys. And obviously the stethoscope is in my ear right now. I'm going to share my screen. I apologize that I'm screaming, guys. I got a car engine running in the background, and I don't think you guys can hear me, but I'm sure I'm screaming in your ear, so I apologize.
No, it sounds okay.
So we'll get the on vehicle camera up on the screen here. Okay, so my stethoscope is going to touch the injectors. You can just see it off camera there. I go through all 4 injectors. And what am I listening for? I'm listening for a clicking sound. What else? I want to make sure they sound the same. I could have a bad injector, a broken spring in an injector causing all sorts of problems. It will clearly sound different than the other injectors. Okay, so my question is, how long does this test take?
30 seconds.
2 minutes.
Right, it's really fast. My visual inspection isn't going to take a great deal of time, and I'm literally just going over and I'm touching my connectors. You know, someone said, hey, try a balance test, unplug an injector, have a look. Is there any green corrosion? Right, I can clearly hear the engine runs poorly, plug it back in again, and go on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, and just check each injector connector, make sure it's all looking okay. Okay, so that's a visual inspection and our stethoscope. I'd say we're done there, right? Anything else to add, guys?
Good.
I heard someone say something about a resistance check. That would have been Jake.
Yeah.
Walk me through it. What am I going to do?
Well, maybe you turn the car off.
Good idea. By the way, I have exhaust hoses on this vehicle, guys. I have lots of air ventilation in the shop.
Nice. And then yeah, unplug any injector you want to test. DBOM on resistance. And I got the specs. It should be 13.4 to 14.2 ohms.
Try and get this oriented so you guys can, I can't do it that way, guys. You're gonna have to look at it upside down. My apologies. We are on our resistance scale here. I'm gonna turn on some more lights.
Can you just spin the DVOM? Oh, you can't look at it, right?
I don't care if I can see it. I don't need to see it. It's you guys that need to see it. So I will I'll do that.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm in the ohm position. I'm in auto range. So nice of me, huh? And I'm going to plug one injector because that's what I heard, right?
Yep.
I have to isolate. I've got injector number 4 removed. The next thing I want to do, guys, is I showed you the kit, and these are really, really well used, but these are adapters that allow me to plug straight in with my banana connector, and then I can go straight into my connector. Same thing with the other one. And really quick, easy, simple way of being able to do my injector ohm test. I don't have to try and hold my leads in and, you know, fiddle around with it. It gives me a nice solid connection there. So how are we doing?
It looks like it's in spec 13.4 to 14.2.
Is that all I got?
Yep. It
Sorry,
goes through all of them, right?
Yeah,
I slide it to compare them. If you don't know.
I definitely want to compare them, guys. There's no question.
Yeah.
You know, check them all. We're here. We got the meter. It doesn't take long. If they're buried, maybe a different story. Sorry, guys. You got to tell me when I'm leaving this stuff on the screen too. Let me get rid of that. I don't need to see that. Is there any other important aspect of this?
Mine is the resistance of the lead.
Oh, temperature,
Oh, temperature too. Okay.
like 20 degrees or something.
5 degrees.
Sitting around 25 degrees. That's close enough, guys. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So resistance checks, guys. Again, am I a fan of this? No. Does it tell me if the injector's good?
Not really.
No. Does it tell me if an injector's bad?
Yes.
I say yeah, guys. Remember what I said. If I get a specification that I don't expect, or it's out of specification, remember to double check your equipment, check your connections, reconnect. If it shows up bad, guys, you can say that injector's bad. Now, let me qualify that. If the spec is, 12.6 to 13.9 and I get 14.1, I'm not going to condemn that injector. I'm going to measure the other ones. Okay. My meter might be skewed ever so slightly. I mean, it shouldn't be, but again, a resistance check is not, in my opinion, an accurate test. So that's what I'm saying. So if it's supposed to be 13.9 and we measure 15 or 16 or 17, yes. Or 2 or 3 or 4 ohms, yes. I'm just going to toss that injector away after I can verify the other ones don't read the exact same thing. Because can all 4 injectors fail electrically the same way? Unless you're talking about a mid-90s GM multi-tech injector, no. Okay, are we clear? Pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. I will disconnect our equipment and go to our next test.
Hey, while you're having a DVOM here, can we just do a voltage drop test?
Absolutely. Who said that?
Oh, that was me.
Who's you? Steven?
Steven, yeah.
Okay, Stephen, yeah, you're up next. You want to check the power side on this thing, right? How are we going to do that?
I
Walk
was
me through
thinking-
it.
Not even doing a power side, just do a voltage drop check for high resistance.
Okay, tell me where we're connecting up.
Can we back probe it?
Okay, good idea. So we're going to reconnect and back probe or not reconnect and back probe?
Reconnecting, yeah.
You want me to reconnect it? Okay.
Yeah.
And then back probe.
Yes.
What do I got for back probes here? Where am I going? What am I going to connect to?
Let's see. Let me find the color wire. Positive side should be BO. Black and orange.
Positives black and orange?
Yeah. And of course, switch your DVOM to a DC volt.
Okay, I'm just going to try and grab right back. You hear me okay still?
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm going to use here, guys, is I'm going to use blue tip, but my red is my positive lead of my meter. And you want me to put the positive lead where?
Black and orange wire.
Black and orange wire.
And your black lead goes to a positive side of the battery because we're checking the power side. I mean, yeah.
You gotta change your meter still.
Yeah. Gently
Ooh,
meter.
good catch. Good catch. So the fluke meter doesn't care if I do that, but many meters do, and you can definitely blow meter fuses or damage meters. Another reason I'm a fan of fluke. Okay, so that is my connection to the positive side. My negative side, you want me to go back to the battery, right?
Yeah, battery positive.
Okay, so that battery positive, is that what you said? Okay, let's do that battery positive. I didn't hear that. Let's do that. Okay, so we're on the positive side of the battery,
Yeah.
as indicated here.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Now-
we are on the right wire there, right? We're on the black and orange wire there on number 4.
Yeah.
I'm doing number 4 because it's just convenient here. Okay.
Okay. Now, if we turn the car on and check the spats, should be about 0.5 or less. That's acceptable.
What is our meter reading now?
Negative.
What does that tell me? Okay. So there's my key on, guys.
Yeah, within according to the book, within 0.5 is okay.
Okay. So you are connected from positive
Yeah.
to the power side of my injector.
I'm checking the power side, right? So
Is that what you're telling me, or ground side? What are we on here?
power side.
Power side. So the black orange wire is power side of our injector. We're going to our battery positive, and we're reading 0.17 volts.
Yep.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Mhm.
So are we doing a voltage drop test right now?
No, not really, right? Well,
On
we're not
the
checking the
positive
injector
side,
itself. We're
on the
only
circuit-
checking all the power side.
We're checking the difference in pressure from my positive battery cable to the positive lead of my injector, right?
Yeah.
So is this my question is this a voltage drop test?
I thought it is.
A voltage drop test, but it's not related to the injector because you're not checking the injector. Voltage drop to the injector, you're checking the voltage drop to the injector, but not the injector itself.
In the harness, you're essentially checking the harness.
Basically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
maybe
gotta connect
unplug the
negative.
injector and go to the injector terminal.
So what I'm saying is when we do a voltage drop test, what must happen? What must be going on in the circuit in order for it to be a voltage drop test?
You
Engine
gotta
on.
be running.
Load, load.
It has to take a load.
It has to be energized. The
Yeah.
circuit must be energized or this is not a voltage drop test. So what I would do, the correction I would make here, guys, is if we want to, we can do the same setup here, but we're going to move our negative lead to ground on the battery. Okay, and let's check. I apologize, it's upside down, but this is my potential, potential to my injector. So I have battery voltage present on my injector. Agreed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
So that's the only thing you can do when there's no current flowing through the circuit is check my potential voltage. So that is the setup for potential voltage. You're measuring from the ground side to the power side of the injector. I want to do another test while we're at here. I'm going to drop another back probe in. This time I'm going to plug this back probe in. And because you're on this, Stephen, I want you to tell me what would happen if I switch my lead from the power side of that injector to the ground side of that injector. So the yellow is now my ground side. I'm
Yeah.
on the power side as instructed. What would happen if I swap my meter lead over here? I'm still connected. I'm still connected to the negative terminal of the battery.
It and the 0.
It'll read 0.
0, right?
Okay, you guys are telling me that? Anybody want to jump in here?
Negative and negative.
Return
I
the car
feel
on
like-
and check it.
Your difference, yeah?
Wait, you're on
Let's
the
go.
negative, you said?
Negative.
Another glitch. Did we lost
So
him?
let's just consider the circuit here, guys. I have a positive, a key switch. I don't know honestly if it's this way. It might go through a relay. I'm just simplifying my circuit here. We have our coil circuit. Then we have inside my PCM, I have my transistor, base, and a ground circuit, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
My test points are here and here.
Oh, 12.5.
So if I measure on my yellow one, I'm hearing 12.5 now.
Oh, transistor. Okay.
12.46. I am on the negative side. I'm on the black and it looks like a red wire. I'm going to switch it again, go to the positive side. What do you notice about the value?
It's
Is
the
it
same,
pretty
right?
much exactly the same?
Yeah.
Because this is
Yeah.
a ground side control circuit, right?
Ground side. I have power on both sides of my fuel injector. Excellent. Because it's missing a ground.
Yep.
And there's no difference between one side and the other because there's no current flowing. So I'm just measuring potential pressure.
Yeah.
And remember that coil doesn't add resistance to the circuit because there's no current flowing.
Can we turn the
Excellent,
car
Stephen.
on?
Let's
Yes,
do
yes.
that. Let's do that. Now, where do you want me to go with the car running?
Just leave the leads there.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what Stephen asked me to do at first. I'm connecting my ground lead to battery positive, my red lead to power at my injector. Okay, so one lead is here, one lead is here. My switch, by the way, this whole time has been closed. Is that clear for everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Make sure nothing's gonna get swallowed in a reciprocating engine. Now, gentlemen, I am measuring voltage drop.
Yay.
Nice. Good.
Looking
Is there
good.
anything else you want to see while I've got this set up here? I heard someone say leave it on the negative side and try this. Do you want to look at anything else?
Remove the off the battery and put it to the other injector or the yellow.
So move it over to the ground side, right?
Yeah, just check the load across the injector.
Well, what I'm doing, where I'm connected now is I'm connected, my negative side is on the ground or the power side of the battery, positive side of the battery. So you want me to connect my negative lead here? Is that what I'm hearing?
To the injector, I think, yeah.
Okay, so I will go across the injector now.
Yeah.
That's across the injector. What's happening here is how much time is it spending at 0 compared to how much time it's energizing the injector. It's on for say 3 milliseconds, then it's off until the next firing cycle happens, which is way more than 3 milliseconds. So it's averaging the voltage drop across this injector right now. This isn't a very effective way of looking at this signature, is it? All I know is the voltage is changing. So remember, where am I connected, guys? I am connected across my injector right now.
So like this, can you measure duty cycle or no?
Sure, let's do that. My duty cycle is 8.37 hertz. I don't really know what that means. Oh, sorry, that's not my duty cycle, that's my frequency, 8.3 hertz. Duty cycle, it is, depending on where I've got my trigger on the negative side, so it's saying what's happening here is there is 99.4% of the time it's not on, and that makes sense. I'm going to change my trigger here, guys. What this is indicating is my injector's on for 0.7 milliseconds.
Wait, so did you just measure pulse width there then?
This is measuring pulse width, but I don't like the value I'm getting here. I don't like that
Too
value.
high, isn't it?
It's too low. I
Too
should
low?
be in around 2 or 3 milliseconds here.
Right. Right.
Okay. So let me try something. Still the same. I don't like that. I might have something incorrectly set up on my scope. We'll come back to that, guys. I don't like that number. That number doesn't make sense to me. I think what we'll see is our engine actually has a lot more on time than that. So if you guys bought a fluke meter because it's going to give you injector pulse, I might have lied to you. It does, but there's something wrong with our setup here. I'm not going to spend much more time. What I do want to point out is one other thing here. This is a distributor ignition vehicle. And my distributor lives over here. And my ignition cables are running right over top of my engine. My test leads are right on top of those ignition cables.
Interference?
So with my car running, this could cause interference. So be aware of that. I like to make sure my test equipment is far away from those high voltage leads. Okay, but Stephen, in a long-winded way, what you've done is you verified that the power side of my injector circuit is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we've done DVU on power, we've done DVU on resistance. I had a hard time getting any other useful information with my DVOM here. Fair statement?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Up to the peak.
Well, we'll get to that. How about we look at other simple things while I've got this set up the way it is right now? I'm going to shut it off. And Antonio's going to take it away. What are we testing next, Antonio?
With the Noid light.
Absolutely. So I got my Noid kit here. We don't need the DVOM anymore. And I'll kind of zoom back a little bit here, get us back. And we're just going to continue messing around with number 4 injector here. Because it's easy to get to. Actually, I lied. I'm going to leave my back probes in that one just because it's easy. Let's go to number 3 injector here.
Okay.
What are we going to do? How are we going to connect up a Noid light?
First, you got to find which one fits into your connector.
Okay.
So you got to take out the connector, and then you got to find the Noid light that's specific for that vehicle. If it has it.
I'm going to go to Bosch 2. I'm pretty sure this is the correct one. I'm going to plug it into the harness. Figure out which way it goes on first, guys. Okay. Now, I know this is a real challenge for me to get this to show up on screen. So let's just see what happens here. I'm going to fire the vehicle up once I take my Noid kit away so it doesn't end up in the engine compartment. Swallowed by, I don't know, an engine compartment seems to be this thing. It's like you'll lose tools, you'll lose everything in an engine compartment, and it never seems to want to give it up.
Yeah, it's worth the pulsing.
Can you see the pulse?
Yeah.
So it's got a pretty good pulse to it, guys. And can you just share the results that we've just witnessed here? What have we verified?
That the computer is providing the ground for it.
Right. We know the PCM is supplying a ground. We know that the ignition side, and I'm speaking ignition side, like ignition switch side, is providing the power source because obviously this is a key supplied system. Could be through a relay or circuit opening relay or anything like that, but we certainly know that our power side's good and that the PCM is controlling the ground side. Now, what does it mean if the light doesn't flash?
A short?
Illinois stock?
Transistor
Or
might
maybe
be
it's
bad.
not providing ground to
Transistor in the
injector.
PCM might be bad.
That's my ground, right? That's my power source, my ground source. I've taken the transistor out because we understand the transistor is going to ground the circuit anyway. So we have power, we have ground. That's a pretty simple circuit, right? If I put a test light, and I put a test light across here, and the test light doesn't light, what is that telling me about the circuit?
It's incomplete.
Incomplete circuit. I've got an open. Either the ground isn't switching to ground, I have no power source. But guys, I need to start doing the testing that Steven did earlier. Let's check power at the injector. We could check resistance. Well, the resistance of the injector doesn't matter here because it's not even in place, right?
Right.
So next thing to do is check power. If I have power, what does it mean?
No ground?
No ground.
So where is the problem? And how do I determine where the problem is? This car's in your bay, no flash, but you have a power supply to the injector.
Check if PCM has power to it so you can provide ground.
So yeah, you know, guys, this is what we need to do. I would do several things. Just from my understanding of general PCM operation, if all my injectors didn't have a ground, so it wasn't just one cylinder, I put my Noid light on there and none of them flashed, then I would look for a ground problem at the PCM, power or ground. Does my check engine light come on? Because if my PCM's not powering up, it's not going to control the ground circuit for my injectors. If a ground wire is broken and it's what's transmitting the transistor switch side to a ground source on the vehicle, if that ground wire is broken, then obviously it can't continue the path to ground. So I would want to go back to the PCM and look for that ground switching there. Okay. If it's one cylinder, if it's all cylinders, I'm looking for something that's systemic. But if I just lost one cylinder, go back to the PCM and make sure that you can check the harness continuity if you like to do that. I'm not a big fan of that. Or just make sure that you have a ground source. Crank the engine over and see what kind of ground source you have at the PCM when you're cranking. Clear?
Yeah.
What if my Noid light stays on all the time?
Short.
Then that means it's not opening and closing the ground, right?
Short to ground.
Short to ground. It could be PCM, or it could be anywhere on the harness shorted to a ground source. What would that problem cause for me?
Flooded engine.
Yeah, pretty flooded cylinder, right? Just on all the time, pissing fuel into that cylinder. That would be pretty catastrophic. So remember this, a Noid light is not testing the injector. A Noid light is testing the harness and the PCM and the power supply. We are not testing the injector with a Noid light. ITA had a question years ago. Noid light doesn't flash. What's the problem? And they had a whole bunch of distractors, and one of the distractors was a bad injector. I just can't see that, right? Junk distractor. So guys, visual so far. Wiggle test, smell, stethoscope, resistance check. Remember to isolate, check your spec. Voltage drop test, really only applicable on the power side because my ground side switches so rapidly, right? So what we're left with, guys, is some, well, fun stuff. I think we're gonna do, I think we're actually gonna jump in and use our fuels tester. Okay. Too many wires under the hood again. I'm going to take my Noid light off. Everybody okay with Noid light? Man, these things are really simple, really easy to use, lots of great information, and they are fast. So 11 Noid lights. Just so you guys are aware, Noid lights are only used on port fuel engines, right? Or TBI engines. We do not use them on GDI applications. Anybody know why?
Why is that? I have no idea why.
A GDI application can use 80 to 100 volts to get the injector open, and then 12 volts to keep it open. Noid lights are designed for 12 volt systems.
Oh, so you just burn it out.
Oh yeah.
You use a test light as a Noid light if you can get it in series.
So, you know, here's the thing. A Noid light is designed to make sure that we're not going to damage the drivers in our PCM. So the school answer is absolutely not.
If you had the LED high impedance fancy test light, in theory, could you?
In theory, you could.
Okay.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll try it. Huh? How am I going to connect it?
A back probe kind of adapter.
And where is it going to go?
Into the harness, just like a Noid light.
So you want me to back probe? Okay, so we're not really acting like a Noid light here, right?
You have the two things in series, like two back probes, and then you connect the test light on one and the other one, and that'd be like a series circuit.
Holy.
Pretty janky, but I don't know if it work.
So what I'm going to do here is, first off, is let's just try this. I've got a Noid light connecting into the ground side of the circuit. So I'll fire the vehicle up. My Noid light is, or sorry, Noid light. My test light is connected to the battery, and I apologize for the shakiness, guys, here, but we have our test light, positive and negative, because remember we have 3 leads on this thing, and then our test lead. I'll fire it up, and then we'll see what we get out of this. See what we measure if I just use the back probe setup we've got there and see what we can see with a Noid light.
Just stays on.
So you know what's interesting? I don't know if you can see that, guys, but the red stays on, which is indicating what? Red is ground, right? And the power side is flashing ever so lightly in the background.
Oh yeah.
Red is power, right?
Yeah, that red was power.
The ground
Well,
is flashing.
you know, guys, if you're not sure, I've got this thing connected to my battery off camera, and it's showing red, and green is ground, right? So it's got power most of the time. I think we proved that, right?
Yeah.
And it's only got a ground for that few milliseconds that the PCM is grounding the injector. So that makes sense. We've got power there until it sees the ground circuit. And it is flashing, guys.
Yeah. That's neat.
So, yeah, we could use this to check and see what's going on, but I would want to experiment with a little bit first because, you know, depending on what your on time is on these injectors, some vehicles have a much shorter on time for an idle speed, and it might not be enough to see that flash. So, okay, good.
Yeah, that's good.
So where did you back probe this?
So this is back probed on my
power side.
I was on the ground side of the injector.
Okay, okay.
The power side's not going to do anything but show me power source.
Yeah.
Right? The ground side was flickering the ground, if you could see. That was what that just millisecond of flash was.
Yep.
Was the PCM controlling the ground circuit. But the rest of the time we saw power because, well, when the ground's open, we get power on both sides.
Okay.
Would it make a difference if you put the test light on the power and then went to the ground? Would it just change colors?
But I don't know how to do that with this test light because it needs a power and ground source.
Well, just do the opposite battery terminal of what you did.
Okay, tell me where I'm connecting the. This is my options here.
Oh, never mind. It's one of those test lights that has 2 things.
Yes.
Okay.
This is high impedance.
This is high impedance, and this is testing both power and ground. That's why I can't do what I think you want me to do, is just connect across the injector, and I can't do that with this setup.
Yeah, you had like with a normal test light that's high impedance with just one cable, maybe?
I don't think they sell the normal test light with the high impedance.
I have one, yeah. It's a snap-on one, just one cable. It has a voltmeter in it too. It's like $120.
Gosh.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'd have to play with it for a while to see if I could make something like that happen. I don't know. I've never tried it for that application. So let me just try one more thing here out of curiosity. Yeah, so it doesn't work at all unless both cables are connected. So it isn't like I could just check power or ground with one or the other of the cables connected onto it.
Right.
So
Okay.
this is as much as we can do with that test flight.
Okay.
We do have the ability, guys. I don't have the specs in front of me, but we do have the setup here. So what I can also do is set this thing up. What I'd like to do, guys, is actually get into the injector balance testing. This is a pretty important and pretty cool test that you guys can perform, and you don't necessarily need this tool. Okay, this tool allows you to do this test on any vehicle, but if you have bidirectional controls and the vehicle supports it, you can also do this on a vehicle just by connecting up a fuel pressure gauge. So the test we're going to perform now is called a injector balance test. I'm not going to ask somebody to go through the steps unless they want to challenge the steps to go through, or I can just walk you through what's happening here. What's important with this test is monitoring the pressure on my fuel gauge. And we have to see it quite accurate. I'll get that focused in a little bit better later. What an injector balance test is going to do for us is, instead of doing a flow test, pulling the injector out, having it sit in the air, energize the injector, spray fuel out all over the ground, what this is going to allow me to do is open the injector for a controlled, precise length of time. Okay, approximately 500 milliseconds. And what we're going to do is we're going to record our starting fuel pressure. So our starting fuel pressure here, guys,
35 psi.
About 35 psi. Okay, that's where we're starting. We're going to open the injector for 500 milliseconds with the aid of this device, and we're going to watch the pressure drop. See where we're going with this. Does it make sense to anybody so far?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I've got my device good to go. We are ready to test. It is actually monitoring the battery as well, because a low battery will definitely skew my results. I then have the cable. I've unplugged the injector. This is going to go on my fuel injector. Now what I need to do is record the starting pressure.
35?
And again, starting pressure is 35 psi. The other thing I need to do is determine what my current is on this injector. So for the balance test, is it a 4 amp injector or a 1/2 to 2.5 amp injector? Can somebody tell me?
1/2 to 2.5.
How do you know that?
Because we tested the resistance at what, 14?
Right. So at 14 ohms of resistance, someone do the math for me here. What is the actual current flow on my battery at 12.4 volts? See, you get to use Ohm's law again, right? It's somewhere just below 1 amp, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody with me on that?
Yep.
Okay, so we are in the right setting here. And now what I do is I push the start button. Pretty complicated. What that's done, actually through pulse width modulation, tick, 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 ran the injector Open the injector for a very precise period of time. And then what is my final reading here?
18 psi.
15.
Better than 15.
16, 17.
17, 18 psi.
17 psi. 17.
Okay, we're gonna go with 17, guys. So anybody want to guess what my next step is?
Check the other injectors.
Run the car.
Right. So what was that?
Run the
Check
car.
other. Oh,
Yeah, check the other injectors, but first we want to run the car. Why do we want to run the car?
You're gonna flood the system.
to equalize the
Keep up
fuel
the pressure.
pressure.
Do you guys have a sense of how long a fuel injector opens at idle yet? Typically 2-3 milliseconds. I've just turned that injector on for 500 milliseconds. Right? So I need to clear that fuel out. So the next thing we do is reconnect our injector up. Hopefully nothing falls over and ends up in my engine bay.
Oh shit.
It's running rough. Fuel's now cleared out. I'm gonna wait for it to stabilize. Lather, rinse, repeat, guys. Okay, my fuel pressure is stabilized. I'm just getting to number 3 injector connector here. I reconnect my device.
So this is typically the same as a flow test? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is exactly what we're measuring. We're measuring the flow and the balance between the different injectors as well. Okay, so ready to go. Start the test again.
Same.
I'd say that's exactly the same. So if you guys can understand what's happening here, I have a prescribed pressure, 35 PSI starting pressure. It drops down. I record the start pressure, the end pressure. I do this to all my 4 injectors. I take the average pressure drop and I make sure that all my injectors are within 1.5 PSI. What would happen if one of my injectors went from 35 to 28? My other injector went from 35 to 17. Injector 3, 35 to 17. Injector 4, 35 to 17. What is that telling me about injector 1?
Plugged.
Restricted.
Something's restricting it.
Right. And guys, if I have restriction in my injectors, it's probably going to indicate plugged injector nozzles or a plugged filter basket on my injector. Now, do all my injectors, would they all carbon up exactly the same?
No.
No.
Not a chance, man. I've never seen it. When you have an engine that runs poorly, or maybe the customers complain it's poor fuel mileage. In our day, it was air care hydrocarbon failures. They were just nasty because literally a car could go through air care, guys, and the specification is 100 parts per million of hydrocarbons at the tailpipe. And the car goes through and it tests at 102. That is 2 parts per million off the allowable limit. Guess what?
You failed.
You fail. So the car ends up in our bay, and I got to find out why this car is off by 2 parts per million in hydrocarbons. What causes hydrocarbon issues, guys? I'm just going to skip to the chase. Everything: compression, ignition, injection, everything on a car would lead to a hydrocarbon issue. And what was one of the causes, one of the things that's really hard to see, guys? You can check the ignition system and compression and carbon buildup and test those systems, but how do you know if one of the injector nozzles has got a little bit of crap on it and the fuel isn't atomizing correctly? This is how. I would have unequal pressure drop. So this tells me the condition of the fuel injectors. If the pressure drop is equal in all cylinders, it is a very good indication that the flow is correct. If the flow is correct, guys, it almost always means that the spray pattern is correct. There's going to be some odd conditions or situations where that may not hold true.
But for the most part, right?
You know what? This is a fast test. And if you have bidirectional controls and you have a Schrader valve, you can perform this test in 5 minutes on a car. Okay? 5 freaking minutes. The PCM, you'll just pick cylinder number 1, or it'll do it automatically. It'll run through all the cylinders and it'll say, okay, record pressure readings for cylinder 1. So you'd go over, look at your pressure gauge, and you say, okay, we're starting at 35. You'd cycle the engine. It tells you what to do and walks you through the whole process. And by the end of it, you've got your data to tell whether or not you've got an injector that's not flowing correctly. So what's my favorite tool for doing injector diagnostics? If I got something weird happening, it's in a balance tester. It's telling me a lot. If it doesn't have correct injector balance, maybe you want to pull it out and look at the spray pattern or something like that. I mean, whatever. I would probably send the injector out to an injector cleaning shop, or you could try cleaning it yourself. Okay. Clean it yourself, run the test again. If it doesn't fix it, then pull the injectors out, get them cleaned, or replace them. So I'm only going to do 2 cylinders here. There's no point in me doing the rest of them. You get the idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got to fire the vehicle back up, clear out any fuel that's in there. Takes a surprisingly long time to clear the garbage out of this thing. Oh, maybe I got to hook my injector back up. Who's on this one? Nobody told me my injector was still unplugged. Unbelievable.
Can't see.
Oh, good excuse.
Cover it up.
You need to see? Come on,
Look,
man.
the gauge is blocking it.
Whatever. Weak excuse. Okay, so we're back running again. Okay, so what else do we have here? We have some signatures I want to look at. This thing also has the ability, guys, I'm not going to go through it right now, but I can hook up my DVOM and do voltage drop testing across here. I'm going to do it with a scope instead. Does anybody own one of these?
I haven't even seen that before.
Yeah, so I've got this one at home, right? This is typically lives in our 3rd year cabinet at the school. I brought this home so I can bring this to you guys. One of the other instructors went looking for it. They couldn't find it. They called me. I said, sorry, it's at home. I can bring it back in a couple weeks. He says, oh, don't worry about it. I'll just order another one, because these things aren't expensive. They're like $150 or something like that. Anyways, it's no longer available. Cannot buy one of those things for love nor money with that specific ohm test on it. So if you guys don't own one, I'm not going to bother going through it. We're going to see better ways to test it anyway coming up. That would be something that you actually could buy. Okay, so we're using a pressure gauge and holding the injectors open for a precise period of time to determine the flow of each fuel injector. Okay?
Yeah.
I know it's getting late. I know that everybody has an attention span, including myself. So let's just spend a moment here and look at Mr. Pico. J-Lac, help me set up my Pico scope.
Yep.
So what we're going to do first is we're going to do the electrical connections. And then you're going to take control of my computer and set the scope up for me, all right?
Sure.
So look at that. I have an injector here that's already back probed. We know that the yellow back probe is on the ground side. The blue back probe is on the positive side. I'm hooked up to channel A.
Oh, we can't see it.
Sorry, thank you. Which, oh, you can't see the scope?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you can't see the scope yet. We're gonna do electrical connections first.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
Thank you for letting me know though, it's important. Okay, so this is channel A coming out of my Pico scope. I can show you that one more time. So Mr. Pico, the blue lead coming out of channel A, and that is going to be your job to help me to make the correct connections so that we will get a lovely pattern. And what I want my pattern to look like is exactly the same pattern that you guys were playing with that sent me this as an assignment not long ago. You sent me a current ramp. Yes?
Yeah.
Was it an injector or was it a coil?
Well,
Oil, right?
Oil.
So is a coil the same thing as I have an injector?
yes, because there's a coil
Believe so.
inside the injector.
Right on. So let's just think about that pattern and how that pattern looked and how we're going to make our connections so that this looks like what you sent me. So what we're going to want is we're going to want to see something sitting around, this is going to be a running car, so it'll be about 14 volts, right? And then when this circuit turns on, it's going to go down to 0 volts. It's going to stay on for as long as the PCM controls the ground circuit. We're going to see the voltage spike when any coil turns off, and then we're going to be back to our 14 volts again, right?
Right.
That's the pattern I want you to put on my screen. I need things like connections for starters. So where are we going? The blue lead here on my test lead.
The positive.
Positive. The black lead is going to be our ground. Where do you want me to connect those up?
So blue to blue and black to the yellow on the injector.
Everybody agree?
Yeah.
All right. Let's have a look here. So I'm going to draw my injector pattern back up here, or my injector connections back up here, right? We have our connector. We have our coil winding. We have another connector over here. And then we have our, I'm just going to draw a simple switch to ground, right? This is our circuit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What you have is you have my DVOM. Oh, sorry. I'm going to draw my DVM over here where I have some more room. And you have, I'm going to draw the red lead is going to here, correct?
Yeah. Positive, right?
Black lead is going to here, right?
Yeah.
Everybody with me? Does everybody see what we're looking at?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's going to happen with the key on and ground open?
Key on, ground open.
Current won't flow.
Nothing, right?
Nothing. 'Cause
What's
you
gonna
need,
what?
you need ground.
Okay, but is my meter gonna? You say nothing, and when you guys say nothing, I know it's gonna show me something. So what
It's gonna
is?
show you
Noise.
source voltage.
Source 14 volts
Yeah.
Oh,
because it's ground control.
because it's still no difference.
Excuse me, guys. I'm not following what you're saying here. So I'm just saying my switch is closed here. And you're saying with the ground open, you're saying that I'm going to read 14 volts on my lab scope.
No.
I'm hearing no. Yes or no?
No.
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 No, I'm going to read 0 volts. Why am I reading 0 volts? I have no ground, right? I'm going to be reading 14 volts at this point and 14 volts at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
This is getting too messy for me. It's pissing me off. Okay, so remember, we have no ground here. We have a positive source over here. What's the difference between this point here and this point here when I mean meters connected to it?
Difference.
I showed you guys with that ground open, we got 14 on one side, we got 14 on the other side. Didn't we just do that, Stephen?
Yep.
The ground circuit open. So what's the difference between 14 and 14? It is 0.
0.
Okay, so what did I say? When the injector's off, I want to see 14 volts. And when the injector turns on, I want to see 0 volts. When the injector turns off again, I want to see the voltage spike. And then 14 volts is telling me the circuit is off. So, so far, what we've got is we've got 0 volts. So what happens now with that same diagram that I just showed you? What happens now when I connect my ground circuit up? I measure it here.
It's gonna
Should
go 14.
go up to 14.
It'll go to 14, won't it? Because now I have my resistor placed because I've got a complete circuit. So my voltage drop is across my load. And then my voltage is going to go up to 14 for as long as my circuit stays energized. And when it turns off, what's going to happen to my voltage?
It's gonna drop to 0.
It's gonna drop to 0.
Shit, no.
No, it's gonna keep.
It's going to keep going, man. It's going to keep going.
Can we just put the negative terminal in the negative battery terminal? Would that work?
So positive where it is, negative to negative battery?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at that. Is everybody following my cryptic drawings here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here and I don't know. I want you to think about this. So what I'm being asked now is our injector, power side. Okay, you want me to connect my meter. Power side goes to where?
Power, anywhere, power?
Anywhere.
Well, because isn't this in like a series kind of?
No, it's to the power of the injector. Power side of the injector.
So you want this to the power side of the injector. Okay, so we'll do this connection this time. Now where am I putting my ground lead?
Ground, right?
Ground.
To ground.
Yeah.
What's it going to read? What's it going to read with my, this is ground, okay? What's it going to read with my key on, engine off?
Battery voltage.
What's it going to read? Key on, engine running.
Battery voltage too.
Battery voltage.
Potential, yeah.
So it's just going to sit there and read 14 volts the whole time. It's never going to change, right?
Yeah.
That's not my connection. Shit, man, we're running out of ideas here. This is supposed to be fast, easy connection, right? How am I going to get the proper pattern out of this unit?
So power side is put on the ground side of injector, and the negative side is a negative battery.
Let's look at that. Let's look at that. Now, here's that stupid coil again, right? This time I'm not going to bother drawing everything else, just the coil. I'm going to connect, this is my ground side, I'll say that. This is my power side, I'll say that. This time my meter, I am being asked to connect the positive lead where?
Injector.
The ground side of the injector.
Injector.
To ground side of the injector, yes. And my negative lead?
It's ground of battery.
To ground, okay? Now let's look at this. When there's current flowing through this circuit, in other words, when my injector's energized, what am I going to see?
0.
0.
Okay.
To ground.
When ground switch opens, what am I going to see?
Battery.
Battery. Right. So now what you're talking about is I'm going to see battery when the injector is not energized. Energize the injector. It's going to go to 0, you said. When we turn it off, we're going to see that pattern I'm looking for. Let's go to our setup. So I'm going to follow that along. You said power here to ground side of my injector. Clear?
Yeah.
Ground here. I could probably pick any ground, but I like going to my battery. So I'll make sure you guys can see this once I've got it connected. The reason I like battery, guys, is battery, it's pretty hard to get a bad ground on a battery. So for sake of ease, I'm connected to the battery's negative. Is everybody clear of my connection here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ground side of the injector on the power side, negative side is connected to ground. I apologize, guys, if this freezes up on us. And who was this? Jay Lack or Jay Lee?
That was me, Jet Lack.
Okay, you're up. I'm gonna go to the other room, have a cold beer. I'll be back in a couple minutes. You just tell me when to start the car.
Have one for me too, Andy.
Walk us through your process as you're talking, as you're setting this thing up.
So I'm going X1 probe, going for 100 volts.
Oh, you're anticipating an inductive kick, are you?
I am.
Excellent. We're doing an auto trigger, channel A. Yes, perfect. I want it on the falling because that's when my pattern starts. That's great.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Fire one.
Beauty.
Right on.
Nicely done, man. That's beautiful. We could probably change the voltage scale. This thing's actually clipped pretty good, right? It's only doing 60 volts on the induction. It looks like we can't. Yeah. You were spot on the first time. Can you give me the injector on time, please? Yeah, it's fluctuating around a little bit. How's that look, guys?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Is that considered dwell?
No.
On time.
In this case, this is just on time. If this was an ignition coil charging, absolutely. On the primary side, we'd call this dwell, coil charge time.
Okay.
So this is the length of time my injector is open. Now, I'm a little disappointed here because I'm not seeing something I was really hoping to see, but I know why, actually.
Pintle.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. And one of the reasons, as I recall in this vehicle, that I'm not seeing the pintle hump is because this is you guys probably recognize this from the wiring diagram. This is a 1995 vehicle, and it is not sequential. This is gang fired. You notice that one injector only had two injectors had one driver. I saw the wiring diagram up there.
Yeah.
We didn't have, yeah, we didn't have a separate control for each injector. So this is a gang-fired injector, and I think because it's a gang-fire injector, we're not seeing a pintle hump. I will show you some pintle hump stuff later, so you're clear of what's going on. We may see it on the current side. I'm not sure. That's awesome, Jay. I think you've done a fantastic job there. You've set it up proficiently. We've got everything showing on our screen here. That's fantastic. What happens when I rev the engine up, guys?
It would be more on time, so it would maybe longer.
Can you change my time scale so that we can see more time, please?
I had a request.
There you go. I'll try that again. A snap throttle, guys, we're getting up to 12 milliseconds, and I'm not even giving it that much. This is why we like to look at these patterns on the falling edge when the pattern begins, and that way it scrolls nicely from the left side of my screen to the right side of my screen. Okay. Awesome. I need Tony. I need you to help me with the current side of things. You got the easiest job of the entire group here today. Well, maybe next to stethoscope, guy. How do we want to connect up our? Where do we want to connect up our low amp probe? I think that's probably the easiest place here. What color wire do you want? Power or ground side? Ground? Does it matter?
No.
We're doing, it doesn't matter. We're on current, right? I don't know about my polarity. But what I will tell you right now, and what's 20 amp or 60 amp scale? Okay, I have got the low amp probe clamped around the power side, doesn't matter which one, of the same coil that Jay has just walked us through. So I don't think I need to show you that. I will later on, but basically it's just simply clamping the amp clamp around a wire. Took 8 seconds. So I'm going to pass you remote control here. And Tony, go ahead and set up, we're on channel 2 or channel B with our amp clamp. Maybe you could just set that up for us, please. Yeah, get rid of that voltage. What do we need that on the screen for? I'm kidding. So what you're probably looking at right now is, well, I can't see it. Okay, raise your trigger up. Raise your trigger up and change the current range, please. More. That's better. And then maybe make them both fit. Put channel A back on for us so we can compare the two, please. Awesome, guys. Nicely done, Tony. God, what is this telling us, guys? This is fantastic information. The current is fast. It is literally, you know, someone who's relatively inexperienced on the lab scope was able to set it up in a couple of minutes. Same thing with the voltage, by the way, that was spectacular. We get these patterns up. What do I know from my current ramp here, guys? I'm going to compare that to another cylinder and make sure that the current ramps look the same. If this current is off, man, I've got something causing either low resistance or high resistance in my coil. If it's low resistance, guys, where's my problem? Is it in the harness?
Is it short or?
It'd be in the coil
Would
itself.
it be in the coil, the resistance in the actual injector coil?
It would be in the coil, right? So that's what the only thing that's really going to cause me low resistance or high current would be a problem inside the coil. If it's got low current and the other ones have the same, then basically I'm looking for circuit issues. Resistance in the circuit feeding my coil. I've just shut the car off now. We don't need it running to analyze these patterns. Some cool stuff we see here, guys. Normally, I will just tell you, I don't know what happened there. I didn't go to print preview. Let's go out of that, sorry. Oh, and I lose it. I'll just draw it up here for now, guys. On my current side of things, typically we can see something called a current hump, a pintle hump in here. That is the movement, the mechanical movement of the pintle inside the injector. We see that come through on the current side, and we'll also see it mirror on top of the voltage side, typically be a little squiggle there. All I want to say about this is it tells me there's mechanical movement. It's possible to have a coil functional within a fuel injector, but have the pintle jammed or stuck. So the pattern would look quite normal, but it would be missing these little telltales, little pintle humps there. And what's happening as the armature is moving inside the injector, it is disrupting the magnetic flux lines and changing the signature quite slightly. So I got more on that later. I realize we've gone way long today. I appreciate your patience. We've done a ton of tests, man. Signature tests, voltage drop tests, injector balance tests, resistance tests, noise tests, visual inspection. I think we threw everything we can at testing these injectors. Hopefully that helps you guys to understand, you know, our injector testing processes. It'll be a little different when we get to GDI stuff. We'll talk about some of that when that comes up. I'm going to open up for questions, and I'm also going to open up for anybody who wants to talk about ignition stuff that you have your test on tomorrow. Tomorrow is your test. I have assignments for you tomorrow as well that I need you to complete and get back to me. So please pay attention to Moodle and updates. Those assignments will all be posted before the end of your exam tomorrow. Okay? So they may even be posted earlier than that, but I'm going to try and get them all in for you by that time. Any questions? You're doing your section 2 exam at 8 a.m., right?
Right.
Is that your question? When are we doing the exam? 8 a.m.
What do you mean by exams before no, something before the exam?
Posting the
assignment?
I'll just post it so that if you finish your exam early, you can just begin your assignments. So what my goal is to have any assignments for you posted before the exam closes tomorrow. I don't mean you finish them before your exam closes. I mean,
okay.
I thought you meant finish.
No. Just so you know what you're doing, and you can kind of put things, get your weekend sorted out, figure out what you want to do.
Okay.
Okay. Guys, any questions about the material we've covered today, or things that you want to cover regarding your test for tomorrow?
Got a few things.
Okay.
Let me change my screen.